and the Justice Department are fighting back against whistleblower allegations that the Biden administration showed favoritism to the president's son. ABC's Em Nguyen joined us now from the Department of Justice with those details. Good morning, Em.
Good morning, Janae. The U.S. Attorney General made his first substantive remarks about the Hunter Biden investigation, denying allegations of politics impacting the president's son's plea deal. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland forcefully denying IRS whistleblower allegations that the Justice Department, FBI, and IRS interfered with the tax evasion probe into Hunter Biden.
This constitutes an attack on an institution. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Garland pushing back on claims that decisions on this case had been influenced by politics and that Trump-appointed attorney David Weiss, who led the investigation, had been turned down in his request to be named the special counsel.
Mr. Weiss never made that request to me. Weiss had, in fact, more authority than a special counsel would have had.
The whistleblowers brought forward by congressional Republicans who accused the DOJ of granting preferential treatment to Hunter, the president's son, who agreed to plead guilty to a pair of tax-related misdemeanors and a gun charge to avoid a felony record.
I think it's just part of this double standard that everyone talks about back home that they're concerned about.
Republicans also released an alleged WhatsApp message showing Hunter pressuring a potential Chinese business partner by invoking his father's connections, in part saying, "I am sitting here with my father and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled." The text allegedly from July 2017, before Biden was president. ABC News has yet to verify that message, but Republicans say it undercuts the president's claim.
Okay, so here's something that's absolutely wild. A whistleblower just came forward with some of the most damning allegations we've heard about Trump's Justice Department in his second term. And I'm not talking about some random conspiracy theory or political hit job. This is a former DOJ lawyer under oath saying that Trump appointees ordered him to ignore court orders and file false statements to judges. Yeah, you heard that right. Ignore court orders, lie to federal judges, all to keep deportation planes flying. Now, before you think this is just another Trump controversy that'll blow over in a week, let me tell you why this one's different. The whistleblower's name is Erez Ruveni. He worked inside the Justice Department. He saw what was happening. And when he tried to report it through proper channels, they put him on leave and then fired him. Classic retaliation move. But here's the thing that should terrify everyone, regardless of where you stand politically. This isn't about immigration policy anymore. This is about whether the executive branch can just decide that court orders don't apply to them. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us, be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
That he never discussed overseas business endeavors with his son. Hunter's attorney insisting any words or actions of his client in the midst of a horrible addiction are solely his own. His lawyer also slamming Republicans, calling their accusations preposterous. The White House reiterated the president loves his son and is proud of him for accepting responsibility for his actions. Meanwhile, Garland says he would support Mr. Weiss explaining or testifying on these matters himself. Hunter is expected in court July 26th. Gio.
A lot of people watching that. All right, thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage.
Think about that for a second. We've got a situation where a Trump appointee, a guy named Emil Bove, who used to be Trump's personal defense lawyer, is now allegedly running around the Justice Department telling attorneys to make planes take off no matter what. No matter what means no matter what the courts say, no matter what judges rule. Just do it. And if you have to sign a false declaration under oath to make it happen, well, apparently that's part of the job now too. Can you believe this? The same administration that screams about law and order, that campaigns on backing the blue and respecting authority, is allegedly ordering its own lawyers to defy the judicial branch. The irony is so thick, you could cut it with a knife. But wait, it gets better. Emil Bove, the guy at the center of these allegations, isn't just some random political appointee. Trump nominated him for a lifetime federal judgeship. Yeah, a lifetime appointment. The same guy who's being accused of telling DOJ lawyers to ignore court orders might become a federal judge himself. You literally cannot make this stuff up. It's like putting the fox in charge of the hen house and then acting surprised when all the chickens disappear. And here's what really gets me. This story broke in June of this year, and we're only now getting the full picture of what went down. Reuveni filed his whistleblower disclosure months ago. He went on 60 Minutes, he testified, he put everything on the line, and the mainstream media barely covered it until recently. Why? Because we've become so numb to Trump controversies that even something this serious gets lost in the noise. So let me lay out what we know, because this is important. Reuveni says he was ordered to make false statements in court filings. He says he witnessed other DOJ officials doing the same thing. He says when he raised concerns, he was sidelined, harassed, and eventually fired, all because he refused to participate in what he believed were illegal actions. This isn't a political operative. This is a career government lawyer who took his job seriously. And the timing here matters too. We're heading into the 2026 midterms. Questions about the rule of law, about whether institutions can survive Trump's presidency. These are going to be huge issues. Democrats are already using this story to paint a picture of chaos and corruption. Republicans are trying to ignore it or spin it as some deep state attack. But the facts are the facts. A whistleblower came forward. He made specific allegations. And those allegations involve breaking the law to advance a political agenda. Now, I know some of you are thinking, okay, but what's the actual impact here? Who cares if some lawyer got fired? Here's why you should care. If the Justice Department can ignore court orders when it comes to immigration, what's to stop them from ignoring court orders about anything else? Your rights, my rights, anyone's rights. Once you establish that the executive branch doesn't have to listen to judges, you've basically torn up the Constitution and thrown it in the trash. This is the kind of story that should dominate the news cycle for weeks. But instead, it's competing with whatever outrageous thing Trump tweeted this morning or whatever new scandal dropped yesterday. We've lost our ability to focus on what actually matters. And what matters here is whether we still have a functioning system of checks and balances or whether we're just pretending. The Justice Department is supposed to be independent. It's supposed to enforce the law fairly without political interference. But when the president's personal lawyer becomes a DOJ official and allegedly starts ordering career attorneys to break the rules, that independence goes out the window. And once that's gone, you can't get it back easily. The damage is done, the precedent is set. Future administrations will point to this moment and say, well, if they could do it, why can't we? And that's the nightmare scenario we're staring at right now. Not just Trump doing whatever he wants, but every future president thinking they can do the same thing. Because if there are no consequences for this behavior, why wouldn't they? All right, so let's dig into who these people are and what actually happened, because the details make this story even more insane than the headline suggests. First, here's Reuveni. This guy isn't some partisan hack. He's a career attorney who worked in the Justice Department's Office of Immigration Litigation. That's the office that handles all the legal cases involving deportations, asylum claims, all that stuff. He was doing his job representing the government in court when apparently everything went sideways, according to his whistleblower complaint, which he filed in June. Here's what happened. After Trump took office for his second term, the administration went hard on immigration enforcement, like really hard. They wanted deportation flights taking off constantly. They wanted numbers. They wanted results. And they didn't care much about the legal niceties standing in their way. Enter Emil Bove. Now, this guy's story is wild all by itself. Bove was one of Trump's defense lawyers. He represented Trump in some of his criminal cases. Then, when Trump won re-election, Bove gets brought into the Justice Department as a political appointee. Already you can see the problem here, right? Your personal lawyer becomes a DOJ official. That's not suspicious at all. So Bove apparently starts giving orders. And according to Reuveni, those orders were basically to ignore what the courts were saying. There's this phrase that keeps coming up in the reporting. Make planes take off no matter what. That's allegedly what Bove told DOJ attorneys. No matter what the courts rule, no matter what injunctions are in place, just make it happen. Now here's where it gets into really dangerous territory. When you're a government lawyer and a court issues an order, you don't get to just ignore it. That's not how the system works. If you disagree with the court order, you appeal it, you file motions, you argue your case, but you don't just pretend the order doesn't exist. That's called contempt of court, and it's a serious thing. But Reuveni says that's exactly what was happening. He claims he was instructed to file declarations with courts that weren't true. Basically, the government would tell a judge, yeah, we're complying with your order, when in fact they were doing the opposite. Planes were still taking off, deportations were still happening, and the DOJ was allegedly lying about it in official court filings. Think about what that means. Every time a lawyer files something with the court, they're certifying that it's true to the best of their knowledge. It's a big deal. You can be disbarred for knowingly filing false statements. You can face criminal charges. And Reuveni is saying he was being pressured to do exactly that. So what did he do? He reported it. He went through internal channels. He raised concerns with supervisors. He documented everything. And then in a move that should surprise exactly no one, he got put on administrative leave. Then he got fired. Classic whistleblower retaliation. But Ruveni didn't just go away quietly. He lawyered up with a whistleblower protection organization. He filed a formal complaint, and then he went public. He did an interview with 60 Minutes that aired in October. He laid out everything, names, dates, specific incidents. He put his entire career on the line to tell this story. And here's the thing that makes me think he's telling the truth. He's got nothing to gain from this. Going public as a whistleblower is career suicide in government. You become radioactive. Nobody wants to hire you because you're seen as a troublemaker. Plus, he's facing potential legal consequences himself just for speaking out, because a lot of what he knows is tied up in confidential government work. But he did it anyway. Now, the Justice Department's response to all this has been pretty predictable. They've basically said Ruveni is a disgruntled employee who's mad about being fired. They claim his allegations are false and that he's twisting the facts. But here's what they haven't done. They haven't actually addressed the specific claims. They haven't explained why Ruveni was put on leave right after he raised concerns. They haven't produced any documentation showing that his allegations are wrong. And then there's Emil Bove. Remember, this guy is up for a lifetime federal judgeship, so the Senate has to confirm him. And you'd think these whistleblower allegations would be a pretty big deal in those confirmation hearings, right? Well, some senators are raising questions, but so far, Bove's nomination is still moving forward. Because apparently, even credible allegations of ordering lawyers to break the law aren't enough to disqualify someone from becoming a federal judge. Let me also point out something else that's important here. Ruveni isn't the only one. According to CNN reporting from July, there's a second whistleblower who's come forward with similar allegations. We don't know that person's name yet, but the fact that there's corroboration makes this way more serious. This isn't just one guy with an axe to grind. This is multiple people inside the Justice Department saying the same thing. And here's where it connects to the bigger picture. Trump's entire second term has been marked by this tension between what he wants to do and what the law allows him to do. He's pushed boundaries on executive power in ways that make even some conservatives uncomfortable. He's fired inspectors general. He's purged career officials. He's installed loyalists throughout the federal government. The immigration stuff is just one piece of it, but it's a revealing piece, because if you can get away with ignoring court orders on immigration, you can get away with ignoring them on anything. It sets a precedent. It normalizes the idea that the executive branch doesn't have to listen to judges, and that's a really dangerous road to go down. You know what this reminds me of? The Saturday Night Massacre during Watergate. Nixon wanted to fire the special prosecutor investigating him, so he ordered the Attorney General to do it. The Attorney General refused and resigned. Then Nixon ordered the Deputy Attorney General to do it. He refused and resigned too. Finally, the Solicitor General did it, and that moment became a symbol of executive overreach and abuse of power. This feels similar, except instead of one dramatic night, it's a slow-motion erosion of norms and rules. It's 1,000 small acts of defiance against the judicial branch. It's telling government lawyers that loyalty to Trump matters more than loyalty to the law. And the worst part, a lot of people don't even care. We've become so desensitized to corruption and misconduct that even something this blatant barely registers. Oh, another whistleblower? Another scandal? Add it to the pile. But this one deserves more attention than it's getting. There's also a case that's mentioned in the reporting called Kilmar Abrego Garcia. This was apparently one of the specific situations where Ruveni says he was ordered to file false information. The details aren't fully public yet, but it involved a deportation case where the government allegedly misrepresented facts to the court. And when Ruveni pushed back, that's when things really started to go south for him. What's particularly galling about all of this is the hypocrisy. Trump and his allies spent years attacking the Justice Department, claiming it was weaponized against conservatives, claiming there was a deep state conspiracy. And now that they're in charge, what are they doing? They're actually weaponizing the Justice Department. They're turning it into a political tool. They're demanding loyalty over integrity. It's projection, pure and simple. Everything they accused others of doing, they're now doing themselves. And they're not even trying to hide it. They're brazen about it because they know their base doesn't care. They know the media will move on to the next story. They know that in our current political environment, you can get away with almost anything as long as you frame it as fighting the other side. Okay, so let's break down why this matters and what the implications are, because I promise you, this is bigger than just one whistleblower and one corrupt official. First point, this is about the separation of powers. Like the most basic concept in American government. You learned it in middle school civics class. 3 branches: legislative, executive, judicial. They're supposed to check each other, balance each other out. No one branch gets to be all powerful. But what happens when one branch just decides to ignore the other? That's what's allegedly happening here. The executive branch through the Justice Department is ignoring orders from the judicial branch, and not just ignoring them quietly, actively defying them while lying about it in court filings. If that doesn't alarm you, you're not paying attention. Because once that precedent is set, it's over. If Trump can ignore courts on immigration, the next president can ignore courts on gun rights, or abortion, or voting, or anything. The whole system collapses when the people in power decide the rules don't apply to them. Second point, this is about accountability, or the complete lack of it. Ruveni did everything right. He saw something wrong. He reported it internally. When that didn't work, he went through official whistleblower channels. And what happened? He got fired. He got smeared. And the people he reported are still in their jobs. In fact, one of them is about to get a lifetime appointment to the federal bench. Where's the accountability? Where are the consequences? If you can order government lawyers to lie to judges and face zero repercussions, what kind of message does that send? It tells everyone in government that loyalty to Trump is rewarded and integrity is punished. That's not a functional democracy. That's authoritarianism with a flag pin. Third point, let's talk about Emil Bove specifically, because his role in this is crucial. This guy went from being Trump's personal defense lawyer to being a DOJ official with enormous power. That's already a massive conflict of interest. Your client becomes president and then makes you a government lawyer? Come on. But it's worse than that. Because if the allegations are true, Bove used that position to advance Trump's political agenda by any means necessary. Legal or illegal, didn't matter. Just make the planes take off. Just get the deportation numbers up. Don't worry about what some judge in California says. And now he's being rewarded for it with a lifetime judgeship. Think about that. If you're a federal judge, you're supposed to be independent. You're supposed to rule based on the law, not politics. But how can anyone trust Bove to do that when he's accused of telling lawyers to ignore court orders? How can anyone expect him to respect judicial authority when he allegedly showed complete contempt for it as a DOJ official? The Senate confirmation process is supposed to weed out people like this, but in today's hyper-partisan environment, Republicans will probably confirm him anyway, because party loyalty trumps everything. No pun intended. Fourth point, this is a preview of what's coming in the 2026 midterms. Democrats are going to run on this stuff. They're going to make the case that Trump and his people are dismantling the rule of law, that they're corrupting institutions, that they're putting cronies in positions of power and then looking the other way when those cronies break the rules. And honestly, it's a pretty compelling argument. You've got a whistleblower with receipts. You've got specific allegations of illegal conduct. You've got retaliation. You've got nominees being pushed through despite serious ethical questions. It's a lot of ammunition. Republicans are going to try to spin this as just another partisan attack. They'll say Ruveni is a deep state operative trying to undermine Trump. They'll claim the media is blowing this out of proportion. They'll point to border security as justification for aggressive action. But here's the thing. You can support tough immigration enforcement and still care about the rule of law. Those aren't mutually exclusive. If you think the immigration system is broken, fine. Change the laws. Win elections. Get Congress to pass new legislation. But you don't get to just ignore judges because you don't like what they're ruling. That's not how it works. Or at least, that's not how it's supposed to work. Fifth point, and this is important, whistleblowers are crucial to democracy. They're the people who see wrongdoing from the inside and have the courage to speak up. Without whistleblowers, we'd never know about most government misconduct. It would all just stay hidden. But what incentive does anyone have to blow the whistle when they see what happened to Ruveni? You report misconduct, you get fired, you speak out, you get smeared, your career is over, your reputation is destroyed, and the people you reported keep right on doing what they were doing. That's a chilling effect. That's how you ensure that future whistleblowers stay silent. And that's exactly what Trump wants. An executive branch where everyone is too scared to speak up, where loyalty is the only currency that matters. This administration has been brutal to whistleblowers across the board. They've gutted protections. They've eliminated oversight positions. They've made it clear that if you cross them, you're done. And that should terrify anyone who cares about good government. There's actually reporting from the Senate Commerce Committee about how Trump's administration has systematically cut off avenues for whistleblowers to report wrongdoing across the federal government. They're not just retaliating against individual whistleblowers. They're dismantling the entire infrastructure that protects them. It's a coordinated effort to eliminate accountability. Sixth point, let's talk about what this means for the Justice Department itself. The DOJ is supposed to be the guardian of the rule of law. It's the institution that prosecutes criminals, defends the Constitution, and ensures that everyone, including the president, follows the rules. But when the Justice Department becomes a political weapon, when it's staffed with loyalists who prioritize the president's agenda over their legal obligations, it loses all credibility. And once that credibility is gone, it's incredibly hard to restore. We're already seeing this play out. Career attorneys are leaving the Justice Department in droves. They don't want to be part of this. They don't want their names attached to legally questionable actions. The brain drain is real. And what you're left with is an institution that's hollow. It's got the trappings of authority, but none of the substance. 7th point. This story also highlights the importance of the media and investigative journalism. Without 60 Minutes doing that interview with Ruvini, without reporters at CBS, CNN, NPR, and others digging into this story, we might never have known the full extent of what was happening. But here's the problem. The media is under constant attack from Trump and his allies. They're called fake news, they're accused of bias, they're threatened with lawsuits, and all of that creates an environment where it's harder for journalists to do their jobs. Sources are more reluctant to talk, editors are more cautious about what they publish, the whole ecosystem of accountability gets weakened, and that's intentional. If you can discredit the media, if you can make people distrust everything they read and hear, then you can get away with anything. Because even when the truth comes out, people won't believe it. They'll think it's just more partisan nonsense. 8th point. We need to talk about what happens next, because this story isn't over. Ruvini's allegations are serious enough that there should be a formal investigation. Congress should be holding hearings. The DOJ's Inspector General should be looking into it. But will any of that actually happen? In a normal political environment, yes. But we're not in a normal political environment. Republicans control the Senate, and they have zero interest in investigating Trump or his appointees. Democrats can make noise, but they don't have subpoena power. They can't compel testimony. They can't force document production. So we're left with a situation where serious allegations of misconduct are just hanging out there, unresolved. And that's dangerous, because it sends a message that you can do whatever you want as long as your party is in power. There's no real oversight. There's no real accountability, just raw political power. The courts could step in, but that's complicated too. Judges can hold government lawyers in contempt if they're not complying with orders, but that requires proof. It requires documentation. And if the DOJ is covering its tracks, if documents are being destroyed or hidden, then even the courts are limited in what they can do. So here's where we are. We've got credible allegations of serious misconduct at the highest levels of the Justice Department. We've got a whistleblower who's put everything on the line to tell his story. We've got corroboration from at least one other person. And we've got an administration that's doing everything it can to bury this and move on. The question is, will we let them? Or will there actually be some accountability this time? Because if Bove gets confirmed to that judgeship, if Ruvini stays fired while the people he reported get promoted, if this whole story just fades away into the background noise of Trump scandals, then we've basically given up on the idea that rules matter. And look, I get it. There's so much chaos and controversy with this administration that it's hard to keep track of it all. Every day there's something new. Every week there's another crisis. It's exhausting. But this one matters. This one is about whether we still have an independent judiciary, whether government lawyers can be ordered to lie to judges, whether whistleblowers are protected or punished. Those are pretty fundamental questions. And the answers we get in the coming months are going to tell us a lot about where this country is headed. So pay attention to this story. Don't let it get buried. Don't let them memory hole it, because what happens next is going to set precedents that last way beyond Trump's second term. The stakes here couldn't be higher. We're watching in real time as institutions are tested, as norms are broken, as people in power push the boundaries of what's acceptable. And if we don't push back, if we don't demand accountability, then we're complicit in the erosion of democracy. Stay tuned, because this is far from over. And what happens with Emil Bove's confirmation is going to be the first test of whether anyone in Washington still cares about the rule of law.